Have you ever been suspected of a serious crime? A crime you didn't commit? If not, that's great, because I had to face it. I try not to look for trouble. I am very calm, striking. But by some coincidence, all the problems piled up on me at one point. And I had to clean up this mess. I am Parker, and my wife is Bonnie. We have been through more than 5 eventful years together. We met the week before Christmas. It was my last year of high school. At that time, my only ambition was to sleep with as many girls as possible. Bonnie proved to be a challenge I couldn't conquer. Looking back now, I regret not accepting defeat. I wish that's what I did. Instead, I kept trying to win her favor. Throughout my last year of high school, graduation marked the beginning of my downfall. Although I was eager to bounce back as soon as possible, everything backfired. So, after a night out, we found out she was pregnant 2 months later, which made us consider honeymoon options suitable for an expectant mother. My hope of going to college was indefinitely postponed. I have always been fascinated by computer programming, and I delved into several college-level courses in the later part of high school. I am proficient in SQL. I can easily build queries, views, functions, and stored procedures. And creating triggers for complex data scenarios is also one of my skills. Using tools and resources available on the internet, I have significantly improved my proficiency. The beauty is, I can work almost anywhere with Wi-Fi, which in my case means I don't have to leave home. However, my current situation is a bit complicated. Due to a dispute in a nightclub, I resorted to physical violence, and I found out that I will be under house arrest for the next 10 months. Although I am not a physically strong individual, this incident marked my first dispute since primary school. It was more of an ambush than a fair fight. Fortunately, I managed to avoid a felony charge. After Bonnie gave birth to our son Adam, we had 6 months of peace. I had a well-paying programming job, working in an office with about a dozen other programmers. Bonnie and I were involved in adult activities at the age of 20. Quite inexperienced in many aspects of life. Bonnie insisted she was on birth control. However, here we are now, in the doctor's office, staring at an ultrasound, showing 3 pairs of little hands and feet. Things went well. Barvin arrived first, followed shortly by Connie. And finally Danny completed our family. I am seriously considering getting a vasectomy before we expand our family further. Dealing with a stubborn 2-year-old who feels neglected by his complaining sisters can be exhausting. So, one Saturday night we let Bonnie's parents babysit. Bonnie and I enjoyed dinner at a chain restaurant, and then found a nightclub with a live band. It was our first time going to a bar since we were 21. The place was crowded, making conversation and dancing a challenge. We chose another nightclub without a live band, but equipped with a jukebox and a dance floor, where about 40 people were having a great time. After dancing a few songs and having some drinks, we found ourselves sitting next to 3 other couples, all strangers. The men were talking about sports, and the women were discussing who knows what. Some other men approached our table, inviting the ladies to dance. 2 agreed, 2 declined. I observed Bonnie dancing with a man on the dance floor. After a few lively dances she came back later. Another man invited her to dance. She looked at me, and I nodded my approval. They danced together for a few fast and slow songs. There seemed to be no inappropriate behavior on the dance floor. I excused myself to the restroom. When I came back, Bonnie was nowhere to be found. Despite my efforts to look for her, she remained elusive. Going out, I saw a man, his right hand between Bonnie's legs, touching her fiercely outside her jeans. She seemed to be responding, her hand on his neck, and his left hand up her shirt. Their faces very close. I intervened without hesitation. kicking his leg side hard, just below the knee, causing him to cry out in pain. Then I pressed his blonde hair hard against the concrete building, causing him to fall. The subsequent kicks prevented further inappropriate behavior. It seems my last kick had a significant impact, possibly affecting his reproductive organs. Security quickly intervened. Turning to Bonnie, I asked, "What are you doing?" Her response was vague and confusing to me. How she managed to get home is still a mystery to me. All night, I pondered whether being drunk led to such inappropriate behavior. Our group found ourselves in a holding cell. A total of 6 people. After my parents posted bail for me and took me home, Bonnie apologized repeatedly, but I eventually confronted her. An apology doesn't explain the motive for your behavior. When you're ready to explain, I'll be all ears. But don't speak until then. Despite my request, no explanation was ever provided. Sexual intimacy declined, and family tensions continued. Bonnie tried to avoid conflict, despite our financial constraints, limiting us to hiring a novice lawyer. I suspect splurging on a top lawyer would have had a better outcome. I was sentenced to 11 months of house arrest, keeping me confined to my home except for medical emergencies or transportation by ambulance or police car. My constant presence became overwhelming for Bonnie, and she began socializing with neighbors over coffee to cope. However, I found comfort in spending time with my family. The next blow to our marriage came less than a month into my incarceration. Parker, I will be direct. I can't stand doing nothing every night while you're stuck here. Since that groping incident, I've been reconsidering my choices. I met someone at the supermarket. I'm meeting him for a date on Friday night. I intended to stay calm and speak rationally, but my reaction was completely different. Bonnie was overwhelmed with fear, seeking refuge in our bedroom and locking the door. I made it clear, if she insists, our marriage will be over. After she retreated to the bedroom, I immediately contacted both sets of parents, who agreed to come over immediately. Bonnie's parents, Roger and Edith, and mine had striking similarities. My mother, Julie, and Edith both embodied the image of a loving Aunt Bee. While Julie occasionally chose to wear pants, Edith specifically wore floor-length skirts, which concealed any possible additional appendages. My father, Mark, and Roger also had similarities, with fashionable beards and receding hairlines. I recounted my understanding of my dissatisfaction with Bonnie to the gathered crowd. Despite Edith's efforts to coax her out, the situation spiraled out of control. In the heated exchange, Bonnie abruptly ended the night with a cold ultimatum. Bonnie warned, "If you ever want to see your grandson again, you will stay out of my personal life." The sympathetic expressions of our parents were evident when they bid farewell with comforting embraces. Bonnie retreated to the bedroom once more, locking the door, leaving me to spend yet another night on the sofa. Bonnie was hardly home in the following week, her whereabouts unknown to me. I found myself in charge of 4 affectionate but needy mouths to feed. Mark arranged a visit with a divorce lawyer, making me feel trapped with limited options. On Friday night, just after 6, the disrespectful comments from Bonnie came. "I'm not sure if I'll be coming back tonight." My last plea to Bonnie not to leave. Despite my pleas, she drove away, marking the end of our marriage. Around 1 in the morning, my phone rang, but I didn't recognize the number, so I let it go to voicemail. After hearing the voicemail prompt, I decided to listen. "Mr. Douglas, this is Abby from the University Hospital. Your wife Bonnie has been admitted. She's not in danger, but she will need surgery tomorrow. I wanted to let you know my number is." A part of me felt a sense of justice, but I couldn't leave the house. Did he hurt her? Did she have a car accident? Was he driving? These questions kept me up. The hungry cries of the three little chicks only added to my exhaustion. I was drained. As the rooster announced dawn at 8 in the morning, the doorbell interrupted my thoughts. Walking to the front door, I noticed a sleek sedan parked behind my car. The man standing at the door showed his badge and asked, "Is Parker Douglas here?" That would be me. "How can I help you, Detective John, right?" "Yes, just John." "Do you know your wife is in the hospital?" "I do. Is that all you have to tell me?" "No." "Where were you around midnight last night?" "If you check, you already have the answer," I replied, pointing to my ankle monitor. "Oh, my apologies. I should have done some research. Do you know anyone who might wish harm to your wife?" "No one comes to mind immediately. The hospital left a message about her being there. That's all I know." "What happened?" "I must say, Parker, your demeanor is quite puzzling. Would you care to elaborate?" "She decided to end our marriage last night and went on a date. I was kind of hoping her partner seriously assaulted her." His expression turned serious. "At least to my knowledge, no such thing happened. She was physically attacked when she left the motel room. There's no indication she was sexually assaulted. Her face is severely bruised. But the most serious injury is her left hand. Every finger was broken with a hammer. They left a message on her face with a black marker. Choices have consequences." Despite the grim message, I found myself smiling. I had no involvement in this. "I can't help you, John. If you don't mind. I hear children who need feeding." I considered calling Bonnie's parents to inform them what I know. But in the end, I decided Bonnie should handle that conversation herself. The day was filled with the usual chaos of childcare. Feeding, bathing, changing diapers, and then repeat. I barely had time to steal 10 minutes to watch TV. My programming projects piled up. Foretelling another late night of coding. Just after 4 in the afternoon, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Bonnie's name. I chose to let it go to voicemail. "Parker, I don't know if you're aware, but I was attacked last night. They operated on my left hand today. All my fingers and thumbs are broken. My whole hand is in a cast. Could you arrange for someone to bring a change of clothes when I get home tomorrow? How are my babies? Please give me a call." As if I were her damn caretaker. "Go to hell, bitch. Come home in your teasing outfit." During dinner, my favorite detective showed up at my door. "Mr. Douglas, I have a search warrant for your residence." "John, no need to be so formal. Come on in. Would you like something to drink?" "No, thank you." As they took my computer and conducted a thorough search, I remained silent. John's assistants exchanged glances, indicating they found nothing. "John, what's going on?" "There was a related attack. It appears to be a case of sexual revenge. We've linked this individual to your wife. His genitals were cut off. The same message written on his face with a black marker." I recoiled, cut off. That must have hurt. Similar to Bonnie's attack. I had no involvement in this. "Well, it seems karma caught up with him. Good luck with your investigation. Oh, since you're confiscating my phone, could you help me call my dad?" John dialed Mark's number. I asked if he could lend me a laptop and give me a cheap burner phone. My parents came over with dinner. I briefed them on what I knew. My mom expressed my thoughts. She deserved it. Bonnie continued to send additional messages, portraying herself as a victim of random events, rather than showing any remorse for her decision to end the marriage. I chose not to engage with her voicemails or texts. Around noon on Sunday, she was dropped off at our house by a car. The children were happy to see her. I made an effort to stay in the other part of the house for the rest of the day. Despite her struggles with the children, I ignored her requests for help. If you can't handle something, just retreat to the bedroom, I'll take care of it. Parker, please don't be like this. We're still married. I need at least 10 weeks to get rid of this cast. I need your cooperation. I ignored her, walked into my office space. Put on headphones, played music. Blocking out my surroundings. I managed to get some work done. I smelled the aroma of dinner. And felt someone tapping my shoulder. Bonnie handed me a note. The children need to be bathed. I can't risk getting my cast wet. I'll be in the bedroom. When John returned my computer and phone, he told me my browser history and phone activity were of no use to them. It was satisfying to be able to say I told you so. Bonnie inquired about the recovery of her rings from John. She had been wearing my wedding ring and her grandmother's wedding ring. Apparently, the attacker took the rings before harming her fingers. John replied that no rings were found or turned in. We were at an impasse. Bonnie would try to exert influence. I would stand firm until the bedroom door closed. She tried to shake my resolve every day. But I remained steadfast. On a Thursday, Bonnie walked out of the bedroom dressed provocatively. At that moment I was on the phone with Edith. She told me, I have another date planned. Not sure if I'll be coming back tonight. I looked at her in shock. It was clear I needed a divorce as soon as possible. I refused to put up with being cuckolded. Although I would miss my children, I felt I had reached the breaking point. Edith agreed to take the children to the doctor's appointment on Friday, and expressed disappointment in Bonnie's behavior. Although she offered moral support, I was too overwhelmed to think rationally. Fortunately, the comforting presence of my children offered a glimmer of hope for the future. I was fast asleep when my phone suddenly rang. Seeing an unfamiliar number, I let it go to voicemail. Later, hearing the notification sound, I listened to the message. Mr. Douglas, this is Mary from the University Hospital. Your wife Bonnie has been admitted. I'm contacting you out of courtesy. You can reach me at. What is this all about? Is this a repeat of our first encounter? I suspect if she's with the same person, injuries like that wouldn't heal so quickly. Maybe this person attacked her. The realization is unsettling. A part of me hopes she would die from her injuries. I know it's twisted, but my life is completely chaotic now. Taking a sip of whiskey, I drifted off to sleep. My worries about Bonnie disappeared. Holding a cup of coffee, I welcomed John to the front door. John, nice to see you again. What's the latest? Here's a copy of your search warrant. The same pattern, attacked when leaving the motel. Broken fingers, another message on her face. Another victim's genitals cut off. You're cunning, but we're determined to catch you. Do your best, John. But I'm as clueless as you are. The same message on the man's face. Yes, Bonnie has it too. Second message. You're learning too slow. Feed her next. You mentioned broken fingers, this time it's the right hand. That's right. She won't be able to move for quite some time. Unfortunately for her. Don't expect me to help her. Before they confiscated my phone, I called my dad, asking to borrow his laptop. Once again, I mentioned needing another burner phone. Fortunately, all my work is stored in the cloud. I had the foresight to create backups of everything, transferring them to a USB drive, and entrusting it to my dad. Around 4 p.m. on Friday, I received a call from Bonnie. Well, not Bonnie herself, but someone calling on her behalf. She sounded distressed, worried about how to manage this and that. She kept complaining, not realizing I didn't care at all. Maybe her parents would offer her shelter. During dinner, Julie dropped by, helping to take care of the children. When my phone rang, she noticed it was Bonnie. Answered the call and activated the speaker. Parker, you need to help me. Bonnie, this is Julie. Don't expect Parker or any of his acquaintances to help someone like you. Julie, I told you. Don't interfere with my personal matters. Put Parker on the line. She handed me the phone. But I refused, so she ended the call. On Sunday, Bonnie tried to contact me again. I let it go to voicemail. Parker, if I come home, will you support me? Please call back. I didn't call back. I have no idea where she is. John returned my electronics earlier than the previous days. With the same warning. They still suspect my involvement. On Monday morning, I was surprised by an unexpected visitor. Edith, what brings you here? I'm here to help you take care of the children. Where's Bonnie? How is she? Isn't she living with you, isn't she? She told us to mind our own business. So we stopped taking her calls. We haven't seen her since that night she instructed us not to interfere in her life. I believe she's staying with a friend from her wedding party. Someone might have made a few calls on her behalf. But we told them we no longer consider her our daughter. In that case, please come in. Would you like some coffee? Black, thank you. Where are my darlings? Edith dodged my path. Spent the whole day taking care of the children. When they fell asleep, she dealt with the laundry and did some general cleaning. At first, I thought it was just for one day. But she came back every day since. Some days Roger joined her as well. I managed to catch up on my work projects. Even had time for carefree naps. I haven't received any communication from Bonnie. Edith also confirmed she hasn't either. My lawyer suggested. Given Bonnie has essentially abandoned the children, this is a good time to initiate divorce proceedings. Considering Edith stayed for dinner, I could arrange my day as if I was still married. The chaotic days before. Now I've grown accustomed to a peaceful rhythm. Yet this newfound tranquility gave me enough time to contemplate my situation and nurture my resentment towards Bonnie. My mother also came by a few times a week. The relationship between the grandparents and the children was much better than Bonnie and I ever had. When the children had medical appointments, usually a grandparent would take them. Once the papers were ready, Bonnie was served. Her voicemails were filled with explicit language and threats. I chose not to delete them, thinking they might provide the court with a clearer understanding of Bonnie's behavior. Given my limited mobility, lawyer meetings were held in my front yard. I hoped this would bring additional shame to Bonnie. They were determined to fight for custody for Bonnie and child support from me. We made similar claims against Bonnie, insisting she needs to find a job and contribute to child support. Considering her skills, she seems unlikely to do so without relying on the income from escort services. The initial court hearing didn't go well for Bonnie. My lawyer portrayed me as the sole provider for the children over the past 8 weeks. They countered that due to her injuries, Bonnie couldn't use her hands. When asked why I didn't help her, my lawyer presented testimonies from Bonnie's 2 lovers. Their genitals were injured. I certainly did not condone Bonnie having affairs. Bonnie and her legal team conferred for several minutes. Their last resort was presenting a note containing a warning message to Bonnie. My lawyer argued the note might have been forged for dramatic effect. Bonnie's lawyer lacked evidence about the note's origin. I had no involvement in its creation. Now we wait for further litigation. The court asked Bonnie to provide more documents about her abandoning the children. According to my lawyer, this development bodes well for our case. After the plaster on her left hand was removed, Bonnie entered the house. She found all her belongings had been stuffed into the laundry room, which enraged her. My lawyer advised me to let her in, because not doing so would leave a bad impression. Although I hoped the children would reject Bonnie, they didn't. When Connie hugged her, she tried a different approach. Parker, what do I need to do to move on? I still love you. I believe you love me too. I'm sorry for hurting you. I was immature. But I've grown a lot over the past 3 months. Bonnie, you're wrong. I don't love you anymore. The sooner I remove you from my life, the better. I won't leave. You still have to deal with me. When you come to visit your children. I grew increasingly frustrated, prompting me to go to my office. Our upcoming court date is approaching. Bonnie fell asleep on the couch. We continued to avoid each other almost constantly. Just like before when she only had one hand working properly. I handled things. Once Bonnie was confined to a room. When our case was called, Bonnie seemed pleased to see her parents present. Although she hadn't seen them since the argument before the first court appearance. She waved to them, but they ignored her. When my lawyer summoned Edith to the stand, her attitude changed. Edith, may I call you that? Yes. Bonnie is your daughter. Have we now disowned her? Why, she's promiscuous. Completely unfit to raise my grandchildren. Parker is fully capable of taking care of them. During the time Bonnie was immobilized, engaging in promiscuous behavior. Parker is at home taking care of the children. She abandoned them. I will not allow my precious angels to grow up thinking promiscuity is acceptable. Lifestyle choice. Not true. Parker is currently under house arrest. Yes, but that's because he assaulted someone. He thought he was hurting Bonnie. As it turns out, she was also engaging in promiscuous behavior that night. No more questions, Your Honor. Bonnie's lawyer wisely chose not to cross-examine. When I gained custody. When Bonnie was ordered to provide child support. A celebratory high-five followed. Alimony is unnecessary. Because I cover all the housing expenses. When my lawyer presented the recording. Threatening voicemails. The judge ruled that the initial 3 months of visitation must be supervised. I originally thought I would be ecstatic as a liberated man. But instead, it's a mix of melancholy and a touch of relief. Back at the house, not much has changed. Edith visits every day. She and Julie have taken over my emotional life. I made it clear. Finding a romantic partner is not a priority. Until one Saturday morning. When Carmen showed up at my door. Edith invited her over to help look after the children. Carmen has a son, just a week older than Adam. Her husband died in a car accident. When she was 5 months pregnant. She is 2 years older than me. Working in customer support at an insurance company. It was clear this was an arrangement. But I did not object. When the children were asleep, Carmen and I sat at the kitchen table chatting. I shared my story of being under house arrest. She also told me about her late husband. Just as I was about to tell her about Bonnie, there was a knock at the front door. Bonnie, nice to see you. The children are asleep now. I guess the lady with you is here to supervise today. Yes, this is Margot Hansen. I shook hands with Margot. Then checked her credentials. Edith waved goodbye through the back door. I welcomed Margot and Bonnie in. Bonnie, this is Carmen, a close friend of mine. Her son Chad is asleep with Adam. Bonnie looked at Carmen with a gaze that could do harm. If possible. However, Carmen maintained a radiant smile and greeted Bonnie gently. Nice to meet you, Bonnie. Bonnie woke up the children. I escorted Carmen to the door. Are you bringing dinner tonight? After all, we are close friends. Without hesitation, I leaned in to kiss, and she reciprocated. I like it, see you tonight. Bonnie watched my interaction with Carmen closely. Everyone watched as Carmen walked from the car. As she drove away. 4 hours later. When Bonnie and Margot left at the end of the scheduled visit, I found myself excited. Thinking about having dinner with a woman. For the first time in 6 months. After feeding the children and putting them down for a nap, I took a quick shower, shaven my beard, and put on a bit of aftershave. I chose a nice shirt and a pair of clean jeans. As I was changing Bevan's diaper, the doorbell rang. Carmen had also changed clothes. She helped me take care of the hens while the boys were playing. The casserole she brought was enough for me to eat for several days. We talked until almost midnight. I was really grateful. Carmen was more than just a passive listener. She encouraged me to think deeply and feel around the idea of Bonnie abusing me. Convince her that I was innocent about the attack. It took all my persuasion. I'm not sure if she really believed me, but that's the truth. Close to midnight, she hugged the sleepy Chad and then left. I asked to see her again, and she agreed. Our goodnight kiss, more passionate than the previous kiss. I had thought before, I don't need the company of a woman. But I tossed and turned all night, reconsidering. Edith came early on Sunday morning, eager to hear how things went with Bonnie. However, she quickly changed the subject to discuss Carmen. I was reserved about my feelings. At this point, I suspect no woman would be interested in a young father with 4 children to raise. Although I might be wrong. Carmen brings a casserole every Saturday. With 2 months of house arrest left, my entertainment options are limited to TV or music. When Carmen asked for music, she pulled me to dance. I tried hard not to show my excitement. Unfortunately, she successfully triggered a reaction. Parker, I'm not ready to commit to another relationship. But knowing that I still attract you makes me feel empowered. Can you handle taking it slow, Carmen? I think so, my thoughts are jumbled. I'm not sure what I want. Does that make sense? It makes perfect sense. I can't imagine what you've been through. I'm equally sure. You can't understand my experience. It takes time. Edith commissioned me to take care of the children on weekends. On Tuesday, she asked me to sit down. I don't want to control your life. Okay, maybe a little. I talked to Carmen's mother last night. They live on the East Coast. She mentioned that Carmen's car broke down. She can't afford to fix it. Plus rent and childcare costs. She's left with only a few $100s a month. Do you think we could take care of Chad and save her childcare costs? Adam and Chad seem to get along well. Mom, I think it's a considerate move on our part. But I still need your help. How much does her car repair cost? I feel I owe her. Because she keeps bringing over casseroles. Thank you, Parker. I'll find out about the car. The next morning, Carmen appeared at my door. A lady in the driver's seat waved to me. Carmen's eyes sparkled. Thank you, Parker. It means a lot. No problem, Carmen. See you this afternoon. It cost about $300 to repair Carmen's car. I think it's a worthwhile investment. Seeing Carmen every day is an added bonus. Our greetings and goodbyes, now like those exchanged between close friends. Hugs are filled with warmth. My house arrest is over. I took the opportunity to jog 10 miles around the community. I casually mentioned an idea to Carmen. Can you arrange to take off on Friday? I was thinking of planning a whole day out for us. Edith can look after the children. I suggested this weekend. But Edith and Julie both have prior commitments. It sounds great. I'll call you from the office later today. A few hours later, our plans were set. My heart was pounding with excitement. Friday couldn't have gone more smoothly. That day I picked up Carmen and Chad early. Dropped Chad off at my house. Edith was looking after him. We headed to the pier. 3 hours of guided tours provided us with some much-needed valuable time. With the amusement park now open, our next 5 hours, hopping from one attraction to another. Finally, it was time to head back. Parker, I'm tired of waiting for you to take the initiative. Can I stay tonight? Oh, let me think. How about staying for the weekend? The agreement confirmed she could. Once the children were asleep, I pondered my next move. I didn't want to seem too eager. But I also didn't want to appear uninterested. I made drinks for us, then suggested, how about we watch TV in the bedroom? I felt Carmen was struggling with the same thoughts. We barely lasted a minute in bed before falling into a passionate conversation.